so hello online world. This is Off the Record with Migs Bustos, and for today, I am joined by the country's one of the country's top sports anchors. Walang iba kundi si Mr. Gets It to Go, Boom Gonzalez. Hi, Boom. Thank you so much
Hello,
for
Migs.
joining us here in Off the Record.
Oh, thanks for having me, and hello to everybody watching. Thank you, and congratulations to you.
Thank you, Boom. All right, so now this is a to serve an inspiration, to serve as motivation to our viewers who want to be like you, who want to be like Boom, who wants to be a sports anchor, or who wants to pursue this field. All right, so before we get into the nitty gritty of things, Boom, can you tell us more about the story of your journey?
Well, first of all, marami tayong mga kasama sa ating hanap buhay, na we can take inspiration from different stories, different people, and one of the things that I always say is my story started from my TV story or my sportscasting story. Started from rejection, which is to me a great story because usually when people get rejected, they get discouraged already, or it's either that or they don't want to get rejected. Diba? That's who wants to be rejected to begin with, right? My first TV job was still related to sports, but it wasn't sports. It wasn't sports anchoring yet. I was part of a show called Game Plan, very long time ago, and I was a correspondent lang. But my sports anchoring career started with rejection. I was very young. I was rejected because I was so young. Because back then, sportscasters were more mature, more the veterans. The sportscasting world was really a veteran-laden world back in the day. So I was kind of rejected because of my youth, but it turned out to be good because on the day that I got rejected, I know rejected is such a harsh word, but on the day that they said no to me because of my youth and my lack of experience, it was also the same day that one of the directors who saw me during the audition process told me that, hey, you may be too old or too young for the PBA, but I may have something for you. I may have a different league for you, and we're looking for young guns, and I liked you during the audition, but I agree with everybody, ano ka pa, parang hilaw. So on the same day that I got rejected, I was thrown into the fire in a league called the Philippine Basketball League, which was then held by Chino Trinidad. So he was the commissioner, he was in charge of TV production, he was auditioning talents, he was doing everything for the league. So to cut the long story short, I want people to take that part of it, kasi syempre mahaba pa yung kwento, no, Migs? Pero that part of it, that rejection can turn into something positive, and that people should not be afraid to be rejected or for, a no. My late father would always say that no is not no in our world of working and opportunities. No means you just re-strategize. So that day when I got my no, I re-strategized, and from then on in, I pursued a career in TV sportscasting. And also the one thing that I want to say to your viewers, Nick, is that there are many ways to become one. There's not one road, there's not one way. And that's why sinasabi ko na marami tayong iniidolo, kasi pati yung mga iniidolo natin at mga kasamahan natin, iba-iba yung mga kwento nila pagdating sa how they became a sportscaster. So there are many roads. There's not one way to achieve the dream. But yeah, that's basically the start. And then marami pang kwento in detail after that.
Boom, sabi mo nga iba't ibang kwento, iba't ibang mga journey and mga dinaanan din. Pero siguro we can find something in common, and that is the values and the practices that this job entails. Personally, for you, what have you learned during that, your first day working with the PBL, and you're still doing up to this day?
Well, nasabi ko kanina, one of the biggest lessons is not to be afraid of outcomes, because you can't find out what that outcome is if you don't do it, if you don't get into it. But the biggest, I think, lesson and the biggest thing that I always try to teach people who are getting into anything that that I have gotten into, whatever that is, media in general, is that you have to do it for the right reasons. That really is the number one thing. Um, because when I got into it, I wasn't trying to be famous. I wasn't using it as a stepping stone to something. I wasn't using it as a platform to anything. Actually, I was already a radio DJ because I was in college. I was already a radio DJ. So I was branching out and I loved media. I loved sports. So I wanted to parang fuse them together. So to me, the biggest lesson is always you have to do it for the right reasons. You cannot get into whether it's sports or media or newscasting or whatever, thinking of something else other than your love for it first, your passion for it first, because that's what's going to take you to places. That's what's going to make you want to be better. That's what's going to make you want to improve. If you're chasing numbers, and when I say numbers, money, likes, impressions, engagement, all of these things, I think you're starting the wrong way. I think the numbers, whatever numbers mean to you, those are, in my opinion, always a byproduct of your work. It's not. It shouldn't be the reason why you're doing it. It should be a byproduct. It's a reward more than anything else. If you become famous, it should be a byproduct. If you become popular, it should be a byproduct. If you get endorsements, it should be a byproduct. But the core has to be your passion for it and the work ethic that you put into it, because there will always be other people who will be doing the same thing or who'd want to do the same thing.
Mm.
That's the biggest lesson that I can probably impart.
Mm. Now, boom, of course, yun nga eh, di ba? In this age of social media, in this age of numbers, in this age of
Right.
metrics, minsan nawawala tayo ng landas. And I like what you said, it should start from the core. And I'm sure that there have been experiences, there have been coverages which strengthened your core. So if you can like name one or two experiences that have maybe defined you on who Boom Gonzalez is.
Oh, well, by today, the time that you're interviewing me, it's been what, 20 years, 2 decades of, and there are many things that I've done also, because sports anchoring, there are different branches to it, and I've been lucky enough and blessed enough to do almost everything that I wanted to do. Anchoring a game, a commentator, uh, sports newscasting, which I've done for our home ANC and a former channel called Balls, and even with SNA before. There's magazine, sports magazine hosting, which I also did with one of our friends, Gretchen Ho and Mia Cabalfin. So there are many ways to get into this business and many paths, and one art form is not, or they're not all the same. In other words, if you're good at one, it doesn't translate to being good in the other one. Okay, you have to learn different skills in sports newscasting, in sports magazine hosting, in commentator, and also I did a sports opinion show on ANC for 8 years also. So those are all different things. And what strengthened my core is my enthusiasm and my passion to learn the different skills, to first realize that they're all different. I had to realize myself now, okay, I've been anchoring for a long time. That doesn't mean I'm going to be good in sports newscasting, reading off a prompter, bouncing off your co-host, all of these things in a studio setting. What strengthened my core is my willingness to learn the different skills, understanding that there are different, that they are all different art forms, just like public speaking and writing and all of that. These are all public art forms, and that you cannot survive on stock knowledge. You can't just come in and say, I'm prepared, I'm good, I'm ready to go, and all that. Maybe you can do that 10% of the time and get away with it. But as you go along, you will realize that you can't fool your audience, because your audience is a very intelligent audience. And that's one of the things that I also want to impart always, is you never underestimate your audience. So you never should come in thinking stock knowledge will be good enough, because there's always somebody who's more knowledgeable than you. The only thing that makes you different is you are in front of the camera, and you have a mic, and you have all these people around you. But that doesn't mean your viewer knows less than you, right? So you always have to not underestimate the intelligence of your viewers, and always respect them. And respecting them means you have to prepare. You have to do your due diligence. And if you want to talk about lessons, those are lessons that you learn along the way. When you're younger, ano ka lang eh, di ba? You're surviving on instinct, you're surviving on bravado. You're probably at some point so full of yourself also, that's all part of the process. Yung parang you think you're the man, di ba? You'll go along and you'll get humbled. You'll realize there are so many people who've been in the business long enough and are still doing the same things, if not better, or they work harder as they go as they go along in the business. So you learn that, you take mental notes, you get humbled by a lot of things, regardless of whether it's social media or people who personally tell you, Malika, you had the wrong approach, you were not prepared, all these things. So those are things, humbling experiences, especially in the spotlight, are things that you should learn from. And I think when you're young, you always want to blame other people right away pag medyo may nagkamali, di ba? Hindi kasi the first thing you have to do is to look at yourself. Did you say something wrong? Did you approach something incorrectly, di ba? Are you working with your producers and directors correctly, or are you doing your own thing because you feel you're a star and the camera's on you? No, di ba? All these people, just like Migs, they play a role, and you're just playing a different role from them. You're just the one with the lights on, but they're the ones who really make you look good. So, those are the things that strengthen my core.
Now, Boom, this is also parang one of the goals here is to humanize, di ba? This is now humanizing Boom Gonzalez, who we, kumbaga sanay tayong marinig at makita sa TV. Pero syempre, di ba, marami ring mga pinagdadaanan, just like athletes or players behind the scenes. Diba? I mean, you've mentioned of rejection, you've mentioned of lessons learned, diba? But what were the moments that you thought that nagkamali ako, and how did you bounce back from that? How did you bounce back from that? Just like any other citizen or person.
Ito na lang, Migs. Instead of telling you a story of bouncing back, and if you want to talk about humanizing, I'll tell you some of the things that I did before I got into TV, because I think that was more relevant in the sense that it gives people an understanding, number one, of who I am, and number two, of what can be possible, right? Before, they only see what it is now and what I have become, and I don't think of it as anything big, by the way, to begin with. I'm a sportscaster like you, like a lot of other people. I don't separate myself from any group. Pare-pareho tayo nagtatrabaho lang. Kumbaga, we're trying to do what we like and what we love. But I started off doing a lot of odd jobs. When I was in school, I had to pay for my own schooling. So I started off, I did everything from cooking to being a waiter, to cleaning toilets, to cleaning floors, to washing dishes. Serving in restaurants. I even did, when I was even younger, I was fixing bikes for a living, skateboards, because that's what I used to do. Before I got into college, I was a communication arts student. In college, I took up broadcasting because of my love for media. So that's where it started. And then I got into radio, I got into hosting, and then I got into TV. So if you want to talk about like humanizing and talk about stories of, I guess you can say, bouncing back also, and I would like to think humble beginnings. That's the thing that I would always say. That's why I said there's no one way to become a sports anchor. Marami nga hindi broadcasting students, di ba? And that's not a requirement. As long as you have a passion and a love for media and sports, why not? Get into it. But I worked my way up. I know how it feels to work with my hands, and I've never been ashamed of my past of manual labor, of working since I was in high school and all throughout college, because I had to pay for my college because times were very hard back in the day for my parents and for my family. I did all of those jobs, and proudly again. And I had a great time, by the way, Migs. I don't want to make it sound like it was such a. I had a great time doing all those jobs. I learned so much, and I met a lot of people who I am friends with still now in different fields. So.
Mm. So yun nga, no, di ba, the values that we've learned for whatever past it is, di ba, kumbaga, the hard work, the grit, the determination, nagmamanifesto sa trabaho natin. Pero
Walang
yun nga,
kapalit.
Boom,
Walang kapalit.
walang kapalit. Boom, gusto ko rin tanungin, of course, I got this question, natanong din ako nito from maybe a couple of groups or students, but at the same time, also, how we deal with social media. Diba? Ang kanya-kanyang coping mechanism or kanya-kanyang approach yan. But personally, what is it like for you?
Well, that's always a hot topic when it comes to me, because I have spent probably a good 10 to 15 years of getting a lot of hate, especially in a league like the UAAP, because it's such a popular league, whether it's volleyball or basketball. There's praise, there's hate, there's bashing, but I'll tell you this, Migs, and I don't know if you'll ever believe me. I never got to a point where it got to me, because I was never a social media guy also. I don't live in social media, so it doesn't affect me that these things are being said about me. So I have certain rules about it. For example, let's say on Twitter, may mga pupuri sa'yo, may mga magbabash sa'yo, right? And some people, you'll see, i-retweet nila yung puri, pero yung mga bash, di nila papansinin. Siguro sasagutin lang nila on their own or their... So to me, that's wrong. I should give value or weight to both. You know, you appreciate the good things that are said, and I don't retweet them. I just take them personally, and maybe I personally say thank you. I reply. But the bad things, especially kung legit na bad, kasi meron naman yung mga, oh, pangit-pangit mo, yung mga ganun na type na, ano lang na talagang nitpicking lang talaga. Yun, hindi mo napapansinin yun. But I laugh. It's a source of entertainment for me. And it's because I don't live in social media. I use it and then I get out. I post and then I get out. So I don't get my validation from it. I don't need social media for validation. I like validation or criticisms from my colleagues like you, from our directors, from producers, and maybe some people on social media who have, you know, good opinion and intelligent opinion about what they watch. But in terms of getting affected, no, I've never, not even in my early stage. Maybe because I started, there wasn't social media. Alam mo yun? So by the time social media kicked in, I was
already... May Pinoy exchange dati, pare. May Pinoy exchange dati.
Grabe ako dyan. Siguro, I've been sent a lot of those things. But because, yun na nga because I don't live in it. It's a very minute detail in my life. Even now, even my personal life is not on social media and all that. It's all work stuff. And then I get out so that I don't get sucked into that world, that black hole. And I admire people who are there 24/7. Marami tayong mga colleagues na, di ba, na masipag sa ano, and hats off to them. I mean, if they can do it, why not? But to me, I don't get my validation from there. I get it from colleagues, from friends, from bosses, from, you know, our producers, and studying my own work, being honest with my own work, and saying, oh my man, I suck today, or, you know, but I've always been even keel about these things. I don't believe the hype. I don't believe the praises too much. I just say thank you. So also in the same respect, all the, you know, I've had death threats on social media for sometimes. Yeah, dude, for volleyball and basketball. I've been approached. I've gotten all of that. And I just am even keel about it. I don't get swayed and I don't get emotional. I always say, you use social media. Don't let it use you. It's sports, Migs. they're emotionally invested, and that's what college sports is all about. If they don't care about college sports, about the games, that's when you think it's a little dangerous. But when they're so invested, sometimes you make them realize. Then you tell them, oh, bakit? Why do you hate me? Okay, let me tell you what happened, ganyan, ganyan. And then they'll realize, and then, ganun ba? Sorry, kasi puro ka puri ganito. And then they listen again, and I'll tell them, oh, what about this? Did you hear this when I said this about your favorite player? Ay, sorry, hindi namin narinig yun. So, TJ Manotok, our good friend and my longtime partner, will always say, there is such a thing also as biased listening. You only hear, the bad things. And,
Tama.
hindi na, di
Tama.
ba? Meron talaga eh. But again, these are all part of the job. If you're not ready for these things, then you shouldn't be in media in general, especially in sports. Because alam natin, in sports, the nature is panig. Papanig ka eh. Di ba? Not tayo. I mean, fans.
Yeah.
Papanig
Fans.
ka eh. So they will get behind their team, and they will kill for their team. Well, kill. They will die
Yeah.
for their team. They'll kill for them. So you have to understand that also. And I'm not confrontational. I'm okay with it. But social media to me is a tool, Migs. It's not something that will overtake my life. It's just a tool. I use it. I don't let it use me.
Lastly, Boom, what is your advice to our listeners and our viewers who want to pursue this path?
Well, first of all, I think the foundation I'll always say is what I said earlier. Understand why you want to get into it. And hopefully you get into it for the right reasons. If you idolize someone, then good. But you have to love the field that you're getting into. Um, and I think that is the basic thing. And then when you get into it, you have to, there's nothing replaces working hard. There will be always somebody who's better looking, younger, more talented, whether you're a guy or girl, parang artista lang yan, di ba? But it's the work ethic that will set you apart, and pakikitungo mo sa mga kasama mo that will make them want to keep working with you. Importante din yun. Hindi yung you're trying to step on everybody else's toes just to get to your goals. It's important that you work well with the people who make you look good. But the basic advice that I will always give is, make sure that you're coming into whatever field that you're coming into for the right reasons, and don't be afraid to fail, and dream big. Always dream big.
All right. So we learned so much on how to pursue being a sports anchor. Of course, syempre, from one of the country's top sports anchors, Boom Gonzalez. Boom, maraming salamat for joining us here
Salamat,
Off the
Migs.
Record, and see you in the next episode.